been in ASUCI for 3 years now. And help resolve those as well. I am running to be Academic Affairs Vice President because I personally was really passionate about student advocacy. Ever since high school, I've been on Student Senate, Site Council, Link Leaders, L Council. Run a lot of the different things that we have at UCI, from courses, approving syllabi, establishing graduation requirements, and also a myriad of policies that just affect how units are transmitted, other different things at UCI. And so being in those faculty meetings, ensuring that they are addressing all student needs, because often transfer students, international students, a lot of our marginalized populations at UCI are overlooked, and making sure that they are seen and have a voice in those meetings. Also, you oversee the Office of the Academic Affairs Vice President, which has a lot of programs, such as our engagement, resources, speakers, and outreach commissions, which support students directly through resources and programming. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Summary may answer the question. In general terms, what is your understanding of the role of Academic Affairs Vice President?
The role of Academic Affairs Vice President is, I would say, is to just really serve the students as a megaphone and to listen to what students say and repeat it back to admin, because a lot of admin don't really hear what individual students might say, but they might listen to someone that is there at their meetings, sitting there in front of them, telling them, hey, you need to change this, you need to change that. The position is a vessel for students to voice their complaints and concerns, and probably the biggest advocate for students in regards to academic affairs. They ensure that students receive a fair and proper and exceptional education at UCI, when oftentimes that is not the case. Our university says that they are the best, and I honestly believe that the Academic Affairs Vice President, their job is to ensure that statement is true. Thank you.
Given the pool of candidates running this election cycle, why are you uniquely qualified for the position of Academic Affairs Vice President? What distinguishes you from the other candidates? Someone may answer this question first.
I think what distinguishes me from Chris, I would just say that I think my experience here as a student, I'm sure his is greatly different than mine, just because we're in different majors, we're different people, we have different lives. I would honestly say that because of the people that I've gotten to know here at UCI has been such a diverse cast of people. It's from all schools, from all majors, all over the campus. I have friends in the arts, I have friends in engineering, friends in business, I have friends everywhere, and I've heard it all. I honestly think that I'm different just because I've heard it all, and I've tried to do what I can in my current position as campus time. And although it doesn't overlap with the academic affairs, I try to advocate, I email, and I just reach out to see if anything can be done, if possible. I would just say what distinguishes me is that I listen and I try. I try as much as I can. Thank you.
Christopher, the same question for you. Why are you uniquely qualified for the position of Academic Affairs Vice President? What distinguishes you from the other candidates?
Okay, first and foremost, I would also love to say that I deeply value the diverse student body that we have at UCI. As my 7th year as a student representative, I've probably heard thousands of different perspectives. Each student lives their own life and has their own unique circumstances, and oftentimes in a university as large as ours, policy doesn't cater to the individual, it caters to the majority. And so ensuring that the student who has enrollment issues because they're struggling to provide for the family at home, et cetera, like that, ensuring that they are also incorporated and supported by our university and is valued is important to me. And I would also like to say that I'm entering my 3rd year in this office. My commission meeting is the only one where the academic affairs vice presidents have actually attended weekly in the past. And so I've gotten to see a lot of different aspects of the role, and I would like to continue the growth of our office. It has been really special, a really special place to me at UCI. So thank you.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is, what do you believe is the most important academic issue to the student body, and how would you address it as Academic Affairs Vice President? Christopher, this question is for you.
So it is hard to choose one specific issue because we have such a large student body, and I also want to make sure that I address all issues that come to me. But if I had to choose one, I would say we are currently facing a large educational quality crisis. As courses continue to get larger and larger, as we continue to have a larger student body, ensuring that each class is still giving value to our students. We have seen a push towards online classes, which are low quality, don't actually provide any value to a lot of our students. And so making sure that the policies that are passed are actually valuing the education of our students and not just valuing the money for the university.
Thank you for your response. Summer, same question.
I think the most important thing, there's a lot of issues that obviously we can't cover in one answer. I think the most important thing is, I would say, accessibility to academic resources and just knowing what's going on campus. I don't know about you, but I can't name every single course here on campus. I can't tell you like what course and how much it costs externally beyond just tuition. And I think that's something that a lot of students need to know about before enrolling, but also just resources beyond the classroom, resources that will help you, in your career, because we're going to university for education and a degree, but also for our careers, for our future. And I think a lot of people need to know what steps they need to take to achieve whatever goals they may have, and also what options they may have as well. So I want to attack that just to advocate and advertise more of the resources that we have here at UCI.
Moving on to questions about the responsibilities of the Academic Affairs Vice President. The Academic Affairs Vice President oversees undergraduate representatives to the Faculty Academic Senate. The following is a 2-part question. What is your understanding of the scope of the Academic Senate, and how would you equip representatives to effectively advise on student interest? Summer, you may answer this question first.
The Academic Senate, as I know it, is our gateway to creating actual change at UCI in regards to academic affairs. They represent the students. They represent the students and also what change that can be made. So they are kind of like our speakers. If the representatives mention something, the Academic Senate is forced to listen, and hopefully they do commit to that change. And if not, the representatives have to hold them accountable, and the AVP as well. I believe that a diverse group of representatives is what will allow the Academic Senate to be utilized effectively and efficiently.
Christopher, you may answer this question as well. What is your understanding of the scope of the Academic Senate, and how would you equip representatives to effectively advise on student interests?
Yeah. So Since I've been working in the Academic ASUCI Commission for 3 years, this is actually very much within my jurisdiction. I currently oversee all the student representatives on the Academic Senate. It's comprised of 15 plus different faculty committees such as the Council on Educational Policy, the Council on Resources, Libraries, and Computers, and many other different committees. And so within these meetings, we serve as student representatives. We ensure that every single policy, every single course that goes through and is approved, we are also approving as well as students. Oftentimes, we come into conflict with faculty regarding, oh, we want to include this policy to help faculty workload, but it would mean it detriments some students. And so within a faculty meeting, if we're not there, they would just pass it. But because we have our representatives there, it is essential and very much needed that we have the student voice. In the past, when I came to the committee, we had a horrible retention rate of 20%, but since I've been here, I've retained 100% of my representatives, minus 2 who graduated, but yeah, we've made a large impact.
Okay, thank you for your responses. In your opinion, what is the most important academic Senate counsel to students, and what would you advocate for on that committee? Christopher, can you answer this first?
Okay, I actually just came from the Council on Equity and Inclusion this Monday, and we are in a time of crisis. So UCI as a whole is facing large budget cuts across the board, and this is going to greatly detriment our support centers that currently are supporting the livelihoods of a lot of our students. In particular, I heard a report from the Dream Center. They are getting 70% of their funding cut next year. And that means loss of essential grants, 9 of them, for emergency funds, for just a lot of different things that our undocumented students, especially at our time of need, cannot afford to lose. They're also losing the paralegal salary. They're also losing the legal assistance and fees that we have been paying for in the past. And so it is now the time to advocate and protect those resources that we have on campus. Additionally, applies to across campus, the Basic Needs Center, all of our different identity centers, making sure that the student voice is heard and that these resources cannot be allowed to be taken down. Thank you.
Summary, the same question for you. In your opinion, what is the most important academic Senate counsel to students, and what would you advocate for on that committee?
I would honestly have to agree with Chris on this one. The Council of Equity and Inclusion is a council that is so crucial, especially now with all of the news that's been flying around about the student visas. It's necessary now than ever to advocate for equity in education and ensure that everybody has access to the same resources, and if they are struggling, that the university accommodates for that and allows students to continue to learn without having to worry about whatever external issues that they may be, or external obstacles that they may be going through, just because I believe that education is something that every student, regardless of demographic or where you come from, it's a right. I don't think it should be a privilege at all. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is, the Academic Affairs Vice President serves on the E-Tech Advisory Board. What is your understanding of the E-Tech fee, and what would you advocate for on this board? Summary, you may answer first.
As I understand the E-Tech fee, as of right now, it covers the cost for a lot of the resources that we use, like Canvas, as well as many others. But I would honestly advocate for the E-Tech fee to be kept at the same value that it is right now. Hopefully to have it decrease, but I do know that if fees decrease in one place, they're going to increase in another. And honestly, best case scenario, as things are right now, is to keep fees at the same level that they are and not let them increase.
Thank you for your response. Christopher, same question.
Can you repeat the question?
Of course. So your question is, the Academic Affairs Vice President serves on the E-Tech Advisory Board. What is your understanding of the E-Tech fee, and what would you advocate for on this board?
Okay, so the E-Tech fee is used to support the technological needs of our campus and supporting education. As not the Academic Affairs Vice President right now, I don't have all the data on necessarily this fee, the components of it, how many students it impacts, the level of impact that it makes, and so I would need to research it, look into it, make sure that the fee that they are imposing is actually serving our students, and If needed, I would increase the fee if it would help our students more than it costs. If they are currently being inefficient with the fee and we are not seeing the support and benefits from it, then I would advocate for its removal. But I make sure either way to do my due diligence, do the research, and see what the student body actually wants.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is, the executive officers of ASUCI have broad authority to propose new positions and redefine existing ones to best fulfill the needs of the undergraduate student body. What new positions, if any, would you propose? What positions, if any, would you redefine? Christopher, you may answer this question first.
So, being in this office for 3 years, I have seen many directors come through, many interns, and I also have seen a lot of room for growth in our office. In particular, I want to do more outreach and more advocacy to our student body so that the student body actually knows what ASUCI is, knows that we are a resource for them to make academic policy changes at UCI. And so that would include improving our outreach commission, incorporating grassroots advocacy, more town halls, more office hours, because we currently hold office hours, if you don't know, already every week. All of our paid staff do. But right now, no normal student goes in, it's only ASUCI. And so I want to change that. I want to make sure that we are reaching out and hearing the student voices that need to be heard, and making sure that our communication goes both ways. The students hear the faculty, and the faculty hear the students. Thank you.
Summer, you may answer this question as well. What new positions, if any, would you propose? What positions, if any, would you redefine?
I would have to agree with Chris, but on a different approach on academic outreach. I strongly believe that students will not go up to ASUCI and not make the effort because I don't want to be rude, but students are inherently lazy. I think, honestly, to increase outreach would be to reach out to them ourselves and go to these club meetings, email these people individually. Obviously, not everyone reads their email, but reach out on places that they're going to pay attention to, maybe like in a Canvas notification, or I don't know, at club meetings or maybe large school events, and just say, hey, we're here if you need us. Here's something. You can come talk to me. I'll be on Ring Road, stuff like that. I don't think office hours will necessarily help, just because I don't know about you, but I'm honestly nervous to walk into a building that I've never walked into before. So I would answer that.
Thank you for your responses. Moving on to questions about subject areas traditionally under the Academic Affairs Vice President's portfolio. Returning to the topic of the Academic Senate, if elected as Academic Affairs Vice President, which councils will you specifically serve on, and what will you advocate for on them? Someone may answer this question first.
I honestly do not know all the councils at the top of my head, and I wish I could tell you, but I unfortunately don't know. I would try to serve on as many of them as possible, just because I believe that casting a wide net is important, and being there to try to talk to every part of the campus is necessary as a VP. I understand that it is a large time commitment, but running for this position already proves commitment to this time commitment. So, thank you.
Christopher, the same question. If elected as Academic Affairs Vice President, which councils will you specifically serve on, and what will you advocate for on them?
Okay, so I already do serve on the Academic Senate. I have for 3 years, and I have, I think, served on every single council except for one. And so if I am elected Academic Affairs Vice President, I would show up to, I would say, the most important ones for me right now are the Council on Educational Policy, to incorporate more course flexibility and to allow for student support in these trying times, and for the Council on Planning and Budget to address the issues that we are seeing right now, with our support centers being taken down and with just budget cuts across the department. Students are losing their stipends, students are losing their research grants. And so making sure that the money is allocated to where it needs to be prioritized, and making sure that we can minimize the impact of these budget cuts. But that said, I also would be in the academic advocacy meetings every week, talking with every student representative and having my say in every single academic affair, or every single academic senate meeting and making sure that the students are represented properly. Yeah.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is the Council on Educational Policy makes recommendations to administrators on curricula, programs, and other educational matters. How would you ensure student feedback on curricula and classes are brought before the council? Christopher, we'll begin with you.
Of course. So this is an effort that I've been working on in my 3 years. We are having students give reports to the academic senate, taking up a mic and basically going, hey, these faculty meetings that normally are just going through the agenda items that they go through every year, let's talk about the students. Let's put it on the agenda and actually make it a priority. And so, sorry, can you repeat your question?
Of course, timekeeper, can I have a time check?
26 seconds.
26 seconds remaining for your response. Your question is, the Council on Educational Policy makes recommendations to administrators on curricula, programs, and other educational matters. How would you ensure student feedback on curricula and classes are brought before the council?
Thank you. Okay, just want to make sure I address the entire question. And so, I would incorporate all the student feedback that I hear, both as the Academic Affairs Vice President, students reach out to the academic office. I also would do outreach through boothing, through, we have an advocacy box that we send out through our weekly newsletter. We also reach out to the entire campus with campus-wide emails to ensure that we are hearing the student voices, where a lot of students are going through struggles, but they're going through them silently. They aren't going to the administration because they're scared or they don't even trust that the voice will be heard. I will be there to make sure that every faculty knows and actually takes the student voice into account.
Thank you for your response. Summer, same question.
Could you repeat the question?
Of course. So your question is, the Council on Educational Policy makes recommendations to administrators on curricula, programs, and other educational matters. How would you ensure student feedback on curricula and classes are brought before the council?
I would ensure that students' voices would be heard by, as I said previously, by utilizing the outreach commission of AABP to reach out to individual organizations and talk to them first and foremost, because I truly believe that is how we will get the most input from anyone. And it could be any small complaint or anything like that. I would bring it up and I would write a report to the academic senate and go up to them and say, here's a list of issues that students have. What can we do about them? And I would talk out each point with them and ensure that each point gets thoroughly discussed, because there's a lot here on this campus that needs to be resolved. And I think that a lot of students are just too scared and they don't know how to report it. And I would just reach out through boothing or just talk to people or just in conversation in class. Thank you.
The Board on Undergraduate Scholarships, Honors, and Financial Aid makes recommendations to administrators on scholarships, honors, and financial aid. What are some initiatives that you would advocate for on this board? Some of you may answer this question first.
I would advocate for an increase in scholarships and financial aid if possible. I'm sure all of you know that in this past year, or really in the past 2 years, we've had issues with financial aid being inaccurate and students having their grants taken away or their scholarships taken away or their loans taken away. I would emphasize a certain accountability or attempt for a certain accountability system for this money that's been given to students to be enabled to have that be taken away from students, because every student shouldn't have to walk into class being like, oh, like I'm fine, and then they leave class realizing that they've been dropped from all their classes. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Christopher, you may answer this question as well. The Board on Undergraduate Scholarships, Honors, and Financial Aid makes recommendations to administrators on scholarships, honors, and financial aid. What are some initiatives that you would advocate for on this board?
So I have served on Bush before, and while I would advocate for always more scholarships, more funding to go to students, often it's a reality that budget is what it is, and we need to work with what we can. And so with that knowledge in mind and working with the faculty collaboratively, not just telling them, oh, make money out of nowhere. So With that in mind, I would work on transparency, accountability, and also education for the scholarships and grants that we do have. And so everyone knows financial aid this year has been a mess. We did a full investigation into what happened, and it was both a federal issue and an issue on our university. I do want to make sure that we hold UCI accountable and make sure this never happens again. Students should not be delayed financial aid when it's essential for living. Students should not have to wonder, oh, am I actually getting the financial aid that I said I was going to get? Because there has been mistakes that we've seen, and that is unacceptable. So ensure that they're held accountable, ensure that students know about these issues as soon as possible so they can react
Your
properly,
time is elapsed.
and students know how to
Thank
navigate
you
the
for your
process.
responses.
Thank you.
Many students have reported ongoing concerns with academic advising at the university. How would you propose improving the quality and accessibility of such programs? Christopher, do we answer first?
So this goes into, again, with our budget, we need to prioritize where we can. Every advising office right now is understaffed and severely impacted by the budget cuts that are coming. And so ensuring that we have clear policies that are reachable by our students. Right now, if you go on every single engineering advising website, you can find at least one or two pieces of outdated information that is misadvising students. And so looking into that, making sure that the resources that students have are up to date and actually good for students. And also reaching out to every school and seeing what is happening, what is the need, and establishing relationships and connections so that we can actually give them the advice and let them know the issues that the students have been facing. Thank you.
Summer B, same question for you. Many students have reported ongoing concerns with academic advising at the university. How would you propose improving the quality and accessibility of such programs?
I would suggest students, or I would create a master doc, I would say, of what students can do or what they need to go to academic advisors for, or if they're just looking for basic academic advice, have like a book that details all of the information, working with both the Academic Resources Commission as well as each of the school councils, and talk to each of them individually and ask, oh, like, what do you see? What is the issue that you are facing in academic counseling, and trying to fix that. I do understand that a lot of it is due to a lack of funding and a lack of counselors that are there. I agree with Chris in the sense that the websites are outdated, especially the appointment sites, and a lot of that needs to be fixed. But I do believe that this is all things that we can do. We just need to put time forward.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is, the university has debated the merits of hybrid learning for the past few years. What is your position on hybrid learning? And based on your position, what efforts would you make as Academic Affairs Vice President regarding it?
I think hybrid learning is something that we should work more towards, especially to make education more accessible. There's a lot of classes that I've gone to at UCI where attendance is mandatory, but I couldn't go because I was sick or I was somewhere else or traveling or something, and it makes it so that students can live their lives but also learn as much as they can. I think hybrid learning is honestly the best solution to making education as accessible as possible, just because it allows online options and in-person options. If you don't like the online option, you can go in person. If you don't want to go in person, you can go online. It works both ways, and that's why professors have office hours, is for students to ask them questions after class, outside of class. Sorry, could you repeat the rest of the question?
Of course. Timekeeper, can we get a time check?
9 seconds.
9 seconds, so 9 seconds remaining in your response. The question is, the university has debated the merits of hybrid learning for the past few years. What is your position on hybrid learning? And based on your position, what efforts would you make as Academic Affairs Vice President regarding it?
I would advocate for professors to push towards hybrid learning and convince them that this is really how students can get a quality education.
Thank you for your response. Christopher, same question.
Thank you. Hybrid learning is a complicated and difficult issue. As a ASUCI representative, I can't say I have exactly one stance, one story that I can tell you. I can say there are many pros to hybrid learning: increased flexibility, increased access for a lot of people, people who are commuters, they don't have to come to school anymore, and people who have commitments outside can do those as well. However, there also are a lot of dangers to hybrid learning. As we can tell, the university is growing, and so larger class sizes threaten educational quality. As professors are allowed to let in more and more students into their classes, they are switching to Canvas-graded quizzes instead of giving feedback to their students and actually encouraging growth and learning. And so, while hybrid learning is likely to come in the future, since it is able to accommodate more students and it is a technology that a lot of universities are adopting, we need to navigate the space properly and with data-driven metrics to ensure that if we implement it in a way that doesn't harm our students. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is, these past 2 years, the Academic Affairs Vice President has advised university administrators on AI policies. What is your position on the emergence of AI in the classroom, and what do you believe is the appropriate balance between it and academic and artistic integrity? Christopher, you may answer this question first.
So, as Academic Advocacy Director, I've actually been working on a campus-wide survey on generative AI and the state position on it. I can again say this is a very complicated issue. On one hand, we do want students to be educated in the most advanced tools of the market, ensure that, like for example, our ACS majors, it's very valuable to use ChatGPT to code 10 times faster and be able to do that once you get a real job. But on the other hand, within our writing courses, we have seen over-reliance on AI leading to the harm of education of students, and thus later on they're struggling. And so finding that balance and ensuring that professors and also administration are educated on what are the proper ways to go about managing AI. One issue that we've seen a lot is regarding generative AI is integrity. A lot of students are being prosecuted for using generative AI, but as of current, professors are not sure how to investigate it properly. They use online things that check for AI, but they aren't accurate, and a lot of teachers aren't necessarily educated on that. So ensuring that we have fair and equitable policies surrounding it is very important.
Your time is elapsed. Thank you for your response. Summer, you may answer this question as well. What is your positions on the emergence of AI in the classroom, and what do you believe is the appropriate balance between it and academic and artistic integrity?
I think AI is a complicated topic. It's partially used as a learning tool, and it helps a lot of students grasp the concepts that sometimes a professor's explanation is not adequate. I think also it is used often for cheating and to get assignments done quicker, to finish, to do tests, and I think that is also, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, I would say. My position on AI, I think that it really relies on the professors to make it clear on what their stance is and what they deem as appropriate. I've had classes where they encourage the use of AI. They say, you know what, have AI write your entire essay. As long as you cite it, I don't care. I've had professors say, don't use AI. If you get caught using ChatGPT in my class, it's over, you get an F. So it really is up to professors to make it clear, because it can be used as an aid, but it can also be used to harm education.
Thank you for your responses. The university and ASUCI offer a number of academic resources to support a student's intellectual and holistic growth. The following is a two-part question. Regarding the Learning and Academic Resource Center, what improvements, if any, do you believe could be made to increase its accessibility and benefit to the student body? Sorry, you may answer this question first.
I think a lot of students are scared by LARC because they have a fee. Honestly, to increase accessibility, we need to decrease that fee, but I know that decreasing that fee would decrease the amount of tutors that are there. I think what could be done is creating guides for students that they can use. Sorry, could you repeat the question again?
Regarding the Learning and Academic Resource Center, what improvements, if any, do you believe could be made to increase its accessibility and benefit to the student body?
I think that LARC should be something that is free for students. I understand that we have peer tutors, but if you want to make things accessible, you have to make them free. Because no student is going to pay for someone to teach them something when they can just ask someone else or look it up or use the internet. And I really strongly believe that we have to in order to have as many students be able to have access to it, to have it be.
Christopher, the same question. Regarding the Learning and Academic Resource Center, what improvements, if any, do you believe could be made to increase its accessibility and benefit to the student body?
Okay. So I'm not informed on the fee structure or budget of Clark, so I don't want to make any comments on decreasing or increasing the fee. What I will say regarding accessibility, we as a campus, in a lot of our different departments, even though we are legally required, struggle with ADA compliance. And so any students with disabilities often are neglected. Even our Disability Student Center, I received a report, so I need to look into this, but it's not accessible to the blind, which is insane to me because it's our disability center. And so looking at this program, talking to them, ensuring that everything that they do helps all students, students of different learning needs, of different sight capabilities or sound, and making sure it's accessible in that way. Regarding improvements, I have heard many things about Lark, both good and bad, and so taking that student feedback and making sure that the Lark administration actually hears it and is able to work with it. And so I think that would be my role as the Academic Affairs Vice President.
Thank you for your responses. The next question is, what new engagement opportunities from ASUCI would you create for students to make the most of their academic experience? What would you change from existing opportunities as well? Christopher, you may begin with this question.
Okay. So this goes into what we do as an office. We have the commission, academic engagement, and also resources, and also speakers. Technically, I guess everything in our office. And so working on making sure that these programs are constantly improving, growing, fighting for more budget within ASUCI, and ensuring that we can reach more students, run them with higher quality. And yeah, with academic engagement, I have a lot of plans, as I've mentioned in my campaign statements, but I want to make sure that we can reach more professionals, more people, so that every single major, every single person at UCI can benefit from AVP. And same with our speakers, same with our resources. I want to make sure that we have a diverse range of speakers so that everyone can feel seen. And also for resources, I want to make sure that resources are helpful for every student at UCI.
Thank you for your response. Summer, same question. Of course. So your question is, what new engagement opportunities from ASUCI would you create for students to make the most of their academic experience? How would you change existing opportunities as well?
I think AVP does an okay job of utilizing the commissions that we have here in the office, but I think that there is a lot of room for improvement just because a lot of students may not necessarily know what's going on with ASUCI as a whole, which is not anyone's fault necessarily, but it would start with academic engagement, reaching out to the alumni network that we have here on campus, as well as each of the RCOs and seeing who they know. Because I don't know about you, but every club, at least every pre-med club here on campus, every pre-health club on campus knows or has connections with people in the fields that they're trying to go to. So reach out to people that might already know people and connect that way. With speakers, again, having diverse speakers speak at UCI about different life experiences in regards to outreach, reaching out to individual RCOs individually and talking to them.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is Zot Talks, which is currently under the Academic Affairs Vice President, consistently remains one of ASUCI's most popular events. What are some changes you would make to how Zot Talks are conducted and why? Summer, you may answer this question first.
As of right now, I see Zot Talks as kind of I would say the fun part of AVP. Everything else isn't necessarily boring, it's just more work-like. Speakers, as I see right now, does an amazing job of getting a diverse group of people to talk about their life experiences. Just from what I've seen so far, they have to balance between having speakers that are both interesting and captivating, as well as educational and philanthropic. And I think it's a difficult balance to have both, especially with students who only care about the fun side of things, not the educational side of things. I think speakers, as of right now, I think they're doing a good job. The only thing that I wish in a perfect world to have would be an increase in budget, just because prices go up so do the cost of speakers on here. But
Christopher, same question. What are some changes you would make to how Zot Talks are conducted and why?
Okay, so I do have to say I love Zot Talks as a parent. It is an amazing event and reaches hundreds of students, which is absolutely a great thing to see. One thing I would like to work on is the speaker choice and making that more of a transparent decision that reflects the wants and needs of our campus. As the parents and speaker directors, we talk directly with the AVP and our pro staff, and we decide internally. But I want to get the student voice involved in that, making sure that who we bring to UCI, who we invest our time into, also comes. Also regarding speakers, because it pulls so much traction from the student body, I want to use it as an opportunity to share about what we do in ASUCI. Have all of our different commissions showing up and being like, oh, while you're here waiting in line, why not talk to us about all the different ways that we can help you, support you with resources and things like that. So I think it's a really great opportunity to reach the student body. So, yeah.
Thank you for your responses. The Undergraduate Research Opportunity Program provides students an important foundation for research. How do you promote the accessibility of this program, particularly to students who have never conducted research before? Christopher, you may answer this question first.
Sorry, can you repeat the first part of the question?
The Undergraduate Research Opportunity Program provides students an important foundation for research. How would you promote the accessibility of this program, particularly to students who have never conducted research before?
Okay. Yes, I have participated in Europe, and it is an amazing program. I would encourage and work with our engagement directors to reach out to the Europe Center, create events and show we are present on campus and how to get involved with research. Holding events like, oh, how to get into a research lab, how to email a professor, how to do all the interviews, and making the process that often is a barrier for a lot of students who have never been to a university before, who haven't had parents or brothers or sisters go through this process before, making that process known and out to the public through events, through outreach, also through our social media, Instagram, campus-wide emails, and etc. Making sure that this information is accessible and of high quality as well.
Summer, the same question for you. The Undergraduate Research Opportunity Program provides students an important foundation for research. How would you promote the accessibility of this program, particularly to students who have never conducted research before?
I am someone that has been in those shoes. I've never done research before UCI. I didn't even know that research was even an option. I just thought people just learned about stuff and read books about it. I think it would be important. It would be good to create a guide as the AVP office to have a guide and have templates on possible emails or how to cold email a professor, how to understand what this research paper is saying, tips and tricks like that. Because I had to ask around with literal strangers. I would go up to people and in clubs and be like, oh, are you in research? Or people in classes and ask them, oh, like, what did you do to get there? And I honestly think that whole process is exhausting and a little awkward too, just because you're talking to strangers that you don't really know. I would just have templates, have guides, and have a master book of what to do if you want to get into research.
All right, thank you for your responses, candidates. We are now reaching the end of the ASUCI Academic Affairs Vice Presidential Debate. So with that, we will have 1 minute, 30-second closing statements from each candidate, starting with Summer.
Hi again, I'm Summer. I am a second-year bio major once again. I'm running for AVP just because I care about students. I've been in your shoes if you're lost, if you feel lost, because I wasn't fortunate enough to grow up with parents that understand and know everything about college and what to expect. So I honestly went in here blind, and I don't want anyone else to, I guess, be as blind as I was going to college. So I want to be an advocate for students because I've been there, I've been in your shoes, and I care. I will try my hardest. I will listen to everything, every little thing. I will stalk the Reddits, stalk the Discords. I will read up on everything, anything as possible, because that is how UCI communicates. I'm running with the slate called Ant Leaders, and if you're interested, you can look us up on Instagram, Ant Leaders, at Ant Leaders _, or you can look at my Instagram or learn more about me either on the elections website or on my Instagram, Summer for AVP. Thank you.
Thank you for your closing statement. We will now have a 1 minute, 30-second closing statement from Christopher.
I kindly ask for your vote for academic affairs vice president because this office has been my home for the past 3 years, and I have loved it to death. I've spent many countless nights working on policies to help support you. I even read a whole 200-page academic senate manual from end to end to make sure that we were holding our faculty accountable and that we are doing the best that we can for you students as well. I am running to make sure that we have equitable access to education, that we have quality education at UCI, and to ensure that your voice is heard on the academic senate, on every faculty meeting, all the different deans, all the different vice chancellors. I want to be in the room advocating for you. And so, if you ever see me on campus, please say hi. I love to meet new people. I also love to hear new perspectives. And I know, as a representative, I don't know everything, but I try my best to reach out, to learn as much as I can, and to ensure that I can represent the diverse student body that we have at UCI the best I can. I am running with Ant Leader Pact. That is my slate. If you want to learn more information, you can check it out in my Instagram bio, at Chris Tan for AVP. But yes, thank you so much for listening and participating in our election. It is really important to the student body. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your closing statements, candidates. This concludes the ASUCI Academic Affairs Vice Presidential Debate. Please give our candidates one final warm round of applause as they exit the stage. We will now enter a brief intermission to prepare for the ASUCI External Vice Presidential Debate. Please return to your seats by approximately 7:20 p.m. so we can continue on with tonight's event in a timely manner. All right, and we are back, and we'll begin with our next debate. So with that, welcome back to the 2025 ASUCI External and Academic Affairs Vice Presidential Debates, brought to you by the Elections Commission and New University. In a moment, we will begin the ASUCI External Vice Presidential Debate. At this time, please return to your seats and silence all devices out of respect to the candidates. With that, please give our candidates for External Vice President a warm round of applause as they enter the stage.
Welcome, candidates. To recap the rules for the debate, each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question. Each candidate will have the opportunity to offer a 30-second rebuttal to another candidate's answer. Each candidate may only offer one rebuttal per question. Each candidate will have the opportunity to offer a 15-second clarification to another candidate's rebuttal. Each candidate may only offer one clarification per rebuttal. At the front of the audience, a member of the Elections Commission will provide hand signals to indicate how much time a candidate has left. A 1 will indicate 1 minute, a C will indicate 30 seconds, and a 10-second countdown will be provided. All candidates have reviewed and agreed to the rules prior to this debate. Now, we will begin with 1 minute, 30-second opening statements from each candidate, starting with Jared.
Hi, my name is Jared Castaneda. I'm really excited to see everyone here, seeing some familiar faces. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a third-year political science and sociology major, and I currently serve as the government relations aide for the EDP office. And of course, I want to talk about my campaign platforms and everything I want to do over the next year and how I want to uplift our campus community. But I kind of want to take a step back and kind of talk about the current status of the student body. I'm talking about the students on Ring Road. I'm talking about the students in the audience. And I'm talking about students like myself who feel constantly disempowered and underrepresented in higher education. Our UC in general loves to boast about student diversity, and yet we feel like we do not reap the benefits of many of those status designations, such as Hispanic serving institution and a minority serving institution. And I think a lot of students have had a similar sentiment. And I think overall, because of that, a lot of students have also expressed seeing or wanting to see a new direction in ASUCI, one that actually shows solidarity and one that actually stands beside students, especially within a lot of advocacy campaigns on campus. And so just to reiterate a little bit about myself, I've had 3 years of experience in the office and 1 year of experience as an exterminator for MedGen, actively listening to students, and I'd love to bring that to EDP offices.
Thank you for your opening statement. We will now have a 1 minute, 30-second opening statement from Adam.
Hi, I'm Adam. I'm a third-year mechanical engineering major here at UCI, and I'm running for EVP because I've seen that ASUCI can do a lot more to represent the students here on campus, and me and the other people in my movement as part of Anita Rising really want to go and make ASUCI and the student body of UCI a better group to be a part of. And we have a threefold plan to do this. One, by fixing the financial aid crisis, which has been a huge problem for so many students who are reliant on financial aid in order to continue studying here at this university. Two, to reduce the parking costs. Due to the housing crisis, so many students have to live off campus and are then subjected to outrageously high parking fees and citations. And three, to empower the student government and to promote student wellness here on campus by providing students a safe, wholesome, and mentally well space to study here on campus. And if I'm elected as EVP, I'll use the external vice president's power as a lobbyer to go to the higher powers of Congress, like in our state government, in order to make these changes happen here on campus. Thank you.
Thank you for your opening statements, candidates.
Starting off our questions for today. In general terms, what is your understanding of the role of external vice president? Adam, you may answer this question first.
Hi. So that's a great question. The role of the external vice president, in my view, is to be a representative for the students to external bodies, such as the city council, the state government in Sacramento, and our representatives in Congress. The external vice president has special connections to these higher groups that have more control over the levers of power and can use that connection to enact change and to push the university itself to change in order to be a more effective and supportive group for its students. Thank you.
Jared, the same question. In general terms, what is your understanding of the role of external vice president?
Yeah, of course. So the external vice president does have a really important role, especially when it comes to advocacy efforts. The external vice president oversees the advocacy efforts at the local, regional, statewide, and federal level, and they do a lot of advocacy work. They oversee all the conferences when it comes to student support and student advocacy. For example, you can name the Student Organizing Summit, the Teen Lobby Day, all of our lobby conferences in general. They also serve as a campus liaison to other student governments and other student associations nationwide, and they also have many capabilities in basically showing a lot of support to our student body in general. They also, when it comes to like the EDP office as well, they serve as a liaison to meet with administration, especially engaging in these critical conversations, such as the regents level, such as the campus-wide level, just meeting with different administrations and enacting policy change.
Thank you for your responses, candidates. For the remaining questions, if the candidates could also speak closer to the mic so that the audio is caught up by our recording team, that would be amazing. But with that, your next question is, given the pool of candidates running in this election cycle, why are you uniquely qualified for the position of external vice president? What distinguishes you from the other candidate? Jared, you may answer first.
Yeah, of course. So one of the things that I really have prided myself in, and one of the things that I think I really held dear to my heart, is the fact that a lot of my experiences, like my life's experiences in general, have shaped my involvements, especially within grassroots mobilizing. As a son to immigrant parents, I understand the difficulties in navigating higher education, feeling disempowered in higher education, especially because our current presidential administration is very hostile to higher education, and because of that, I had several different involvements within grassroots mobilizing. My most important role that I think has shown me a lot of insight into what community building actually is my involvement within MECHA, which is a prominent socio-political org on campus that deals with Latino-based issues. And I think actively engaging with students and having these critical conversations, hosting teachings, workshops, going to protests have really shaped my foundation to bring that into this role.
Thank you for your response. Adam, same question.
Yeah, so unlike my other candidate who is a political science major, I'm an engineer. I'm an outsider to this aspect of the university, but I feel like that is my greatest strength. I think that people who have been too closely involved with the current ASUCI administration, or people who, I guess, it's not that the university, it's not that ASUCI has done poorly, but that I feel like they've not realized their full potential. And I feel like what ASUCI needs is an outside push and an outside perspective in order to reach that full potential. And so I have experience leading organizations related to engineering and stuff like that, but I think the most important thing is taking a more scientific and more aggressive approach to advocacy than what has currently been done within the administration. Thank you.
What do you believe is the most important issue to the student body, and how would you address it as external vice president? Adam, you may answer this question first.
Yeah, so I think right now the most important issue has got to be the financial aid crisis. Last fall quarter, we saw thousands of students who rightfully deserve to receive financial aid through scholarships, grants from the federal and state government, who were denied or delayed in receiving their aid and ended up having their college careers jeopardized because of this. This is completely unacceptable, and I'll use the powers of the external vice president to lobby our higher administration, including our state government and our representatives in Congress and the UC regents, in order to apply pressure onto the UCI administration to fix their financial aid system. We've spoken with representatives from the Office of Financial Aid here, and they have found that the UCI administration has intentionally defunded and understaffed the administration in order to
Your time
reduce.
has elapsed. Jared, you may answer this question is next. What do you believe is the most important issue to the student body, and how would you address it as external vice president?
Yeah, of course. So I think this comes in a variety of forms, but I think the biggest issue for UCI students is the fact that a lot of students are being disenfranchised throughout the UC system and throughout UC institutions. We see this with how the UC and the regents and their decisions to not support undocumented students, for example. And we see this as almost a threat to higher education. This comes in a lot of forms, as I was saying, inaccessibility, the lack of transparency within student government. That's why I also want to establish town halls in general and have quarterly town halls, because student government is generally inaccessible to students, and they are not being able to be involved when it comes to advocacy work and getting that established. I think also a lot of our CEOs are not in contact with us because we haven't made those consistent efforts, and because of that, students are being disenfranchised because they aren't involved
Time
in
has
our
elapsed.
implementation efforts.
Thank you for your responses. Moving on to questions about the responsibilities of the external vice president. The external vice president serves as the primary liaison to the UC regents and the office of the president. What items would you prioritize when communicating with these bodies? Jared, you may answer this question first.
Yeah, of course. So after being in contact with a lot of student organizations and a lot of student-led movements, I think one of the biggest ones is student protester safety. I feel like a lot of students who dissent any of the opinions that are currently in the status quo are really being suppressed, and student voices are generally being silenced. So I think that's definitely something that I would bring up, especially engaging in these critical discussions, and because the UC has decided to purchase more weapons to further silence students across the UC system after protesting last year. I think something else that I would also bring to the regents is the fact that a lot of students feel like they are being pushed out of the UC system, especially when it comes to diversity initiatives and overall feeling disempowered in higher education, especially because the UC pushes an affordability and housing crisis, and therefore a lot of students are disproportionately dropping out, especially within our most vulnerable communities. I think I really have to bring issues to that as well.
Adam, the same question.
Yeah, I think Jared makes a good point, especially about that affordability crisis. And that's why I want to hammer back in on this financial aid crisis as the issue that affects the largest portion of the student population and has the most impact on the student population, rather than individual small groups. Most students within the UC system receive some form of financial aid. And so it's really important to, like he said, contact the UC regents and in order to get the higher UC regents administration to push back against UCI administration's intentional efforts to underfund and understaff the Office of Student Financial Aid in order to reduce the amount of student financial aid that students receive and thus create greater profits for the university. And that's why in all efforts, I will be focused singularly on this issue and also other important issues.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is: the external vice president serves as the primary liaison to local, state, and national elected officials working to have student interests reflected in policy. What items would you prioritize when communicating with these individuals? Adam, you may start first.
Yeah, so on the local level, I feel like the best way that our Orange County government and our Irvine State government can help students at UCI is to improve the public transportation system here. We love OC Transportation Authority and their not very frequent bus service. by improving the bus service at the county and in the local level, we can allow students who do not have cars but are still forced off campus due to the housing crisis to be able to reach the university without having to pay exorbitant fees and without having to purchase a car with money that is already a major issue for them due to the financial aid crisis as well. All these issues compound together, and that's why they all need to be treated not just as individual issues, but as one singular issue, which comes from the prioritization of profits over student well-being. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Jared, same question.
Yeah, of course. So at the local level, I think I would focus on dismantling voter suppression tactics. At the local level, I feel like students have inadequate access to voting and civic engagement initiatives. And I think one of the things that I would really focus on and hammer down next year is establishing a vote coalition and empowering RCOs to really be involved within the voting processes. This includes hosting teach-ins, workshops, and expanding the RCO outreach, because a lot of candidates will campaign on ASUCI being inaccessible but not offer ASUCI as a source of collaboration. So I think that's a big issue, and this would help this would help in general fund RCOs. I think also establishing a second voting center on campus would really help in our advocacy work and getting students civically engaged, and not having to wait a bunch of hours just to fulfill their civic duties. Something that I would focus on at the California level, which I actually lobbied for in Sacramento recently, would be expanding the Cal Grant Equity Framework and allowing more students to be eligible for financial aid protections.
Might I offer a rebuttal?
Yes, you may.
30 seconds, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to address the idea that voting, just expanding voting access in one of the states that already has one of the most useful voting systems, like we all have mail-in ballots. I don't see how this is going to go and help solve these issues, especially since as EVP, we will be serving in a term that is not an election year. And so how would this actually help students with the issues that they are facing right now?
Can I offer a rebuttal to that?
You may offer a 15-second clarification.
For a 15-second clarification, a lot of students are still currently disempowered, and RCOs will still remain not in contact with ASUCI. And also, California does not actually have the most efficient voting processes, especially when it comes to reaching out to students and having a bunch of our constituencies disempowered.
Would the other candidate also like to provide a rebuttal to the question, or
I thought we only get one rebuttal.
you get one rebuttal per question per candidate?
Oh, I see.
So if you would like to offer a rebuttal, you may do so. Otherwise, we will move on to the next question.
We can move on to the next question.
Move on to the next question, of course.
The external vice president serves on the UC Student Association, a governing body composed of all the UC student body external vice presidents and members of their staff. The following is a two-part question. What is your understanding of the UC Student Association, its organizational relationship with ASUCI, and how it informs the work of the external vice president? Jared, you may answer this question first.
Yeah, of course. So the UC Student Association is an organization and a student-led organization, actually, that encompasses over 240,000 undergraduate voices across the 9 UC institutions in California. So the UCSA overall handles a lot of our advocacy work, especially when it comes to external organizing. The UC, for example, the UCSA oversees all of our lobby days, all of our advocacy days, all of our budget days, and it even oversees our student organizing summit. So it oversees a lot of our campaigns and work that we do, especially to get the ground running when it comes to a lot of our involvements. They also have different campaigns overall when it comes to different issues, and they're tasked with doing that and addressing that in the sense that they have their own commissions, such as like the Choir campaign, the C campaigns, and the UC Libro campaign, which overall focuses on voter engagement. So they do a lot of external work.
Your time has elapsed. Adam, same question. What is your understanding of the UC Student Association, its organizational relationship with ASUCI, and how it informs the work of the external vice president?
Yeah, as a student association that encompasses the entire UC system with hundreds of thousands of members like Jared said. It's definitely a very important office and an important part of the UC Student Council system. But I do feel like its influence is a little overstated. I think that while the campaigns and lobby days that they organize are very important and definitely should continue, I think that a better way to affect change is to create personal relationships between members of ASUCI, the executive branch of ASUCI, and the people in power within our local, state, and federal government in order to lobby them personally to enact these changes. I think that while these individual days are a great way to show support for a lot of people, it's difficult to show support for a single important issue using them.
Time to that. In the past, ASUCI has had a tenuous relationship with UCSA. But do you envision ASUCI's relationship with UCSA to be moving forward? Adam, you may answer this question first.
Yeah, like I said, I think while UCSA is important and it's important to be on good terms with them, it's also important to stand on our own as UCI in our relationship with the UC administration, with the UC regents, and with other state, local, federal governments. And that's why I'm hoping to, as EVP, represent a more independent and, dare I say, self-interested, but not interested in ASUCI, but in the students at UCI in our relationships. So that way we are not entirely dependent on UCSA in our relationships and in lobbying. Because while I think they do serve a very important role, I also think that it's important that we stand up for ourselves when it comes to representing ourselves, because no one holds UC students as more important than UC students ourselves. And that's why I think that we should be representing ourselves first and foremost. Thank you.
Jared, same question.
Yeah, of course. For me, I think I would actually focus on strengthening our relationship with the UC Student Association. And while yes, they do oversee a lot of our advocacy work, we do it in collaboration with them. For example, with Latino Lobby Day, we hosted a town hall and we gained real student feedback from UCI voices, and that's why I kind of want to also incorporate a lot of our town halls and expand on how many town halls we actually have to really strengthen our relationship with the UC Student Association. We do a lot of work with them actually, especially when it comes to collaboration and advocacy days, whether it comes to our student lobby conference, etc. And while yes, we have had a strenuous relationship in the past, we have been very vocal on why it has been strenuous, and the UC Student Association has been working with us directly to really fix those issues. And overall, we have to maintain our relationship with them because that's a lot of the advocacy work that we do.
May I offer a rebuttal?
Yes, 30 seconds.
I actually really like Jared's idea of doing more town halls so that way students get a chance to have their voices heard when it comes to ASUCI. What I just don't see is why do we have to rely on the UC Student Association in order to do them? Why can't we as ASUCI organize ourselves to host our own town halls catering to UCI's needs specifically? I think that it's just a question of why can't we do this ourselves? We can. We have the money, and we should.
For clarification,
Of course.
we actually do it ourselves. For example, when it came to the TV Lobby Day town hall, that was hosted by ourselves and led by ourselves. And while yes, we do provide our things and feedback to the UC Student Association, after being 3 years in office, I can confirm that we are not the only ones.
Jane, would you like to also offer a rebuttal, or would you like to move on to the next question?
Next question, please.
Of course. The next question is, the External Vice President leads delegations of UCI students to a number of important conferences and lobbying trips. The following is a 3-part question. First, what specific experience do you have with lobbying local, state, or national officials, and how would it inform your lobbying efforts? Jared, we'll begin with you.
Yeah, of course. So I actually like to pride myself in the fact that I've been involved and I've had a lot of extensive lobbying experience, especially when it comes to advocating for student needs and expanding a lot of student protections, expanding financial aid in general, expanding a lot of accessibility, expanding and safeguarding those rights that students are currently subject to removal from. And so I've gone to at least 4 or 5 lobby conferences each with different themes. And I've generally been informed by what to do and how to handle these lobby days because I do a lot of student outreach and I actually am on the ground level speaking to students, hosting these town halls, reaching out to RCOs, and really getting that real student feedback. So I think that's something that I really pride myself in, and being on the ground and actually communicating with students. And I've lobbied for a lot of things before. One of the things is expanding the Cal grant and expanding a lot of protection for some protesters.
Adam, same question.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Of course. The question is, what specific experience do you have with lobbying local, state, or national officials, and how would it inform your lobbying efforts?
Yeah, so I've been upfront that I'm an outsider to the political arena. I don't have any particular experience in lobbying. What I do have was my position and my current position as a corporate outreach chair with the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, which is a group that does a lot of lobbying, not to governments, but to corporations. I had spent a lot of time developing relationships with corporations in the aerospace industry and other engineering industries in order to promote efforts such as more climate-based and more like carbon-efficient fuel systems for jet aircraft and rockets, and also hosting conferences, even a conference that we hosted here at ASUCI, highlighting research in such fields. Thank you.
Your next question is, how would you ensure these opportunities are accessible and inclusive of students from all backgrounds, especially those with no prior advocacy experience? Adam, you may answer this question first.
Yeah, I think that everyone can be an advocate. I think that it's within all of us, within ourselves, to be an advocate. What we need is the push to actually go out there and do it. And that's why, as EVP, I feel like our role is not just to be a leader, but to be an inspiration to the students in order to get them not to advocate for them, but to get them to advocate for themselves. I think that a lot of students are kind of just fed up with the political system in this current day and age, and they feel like they can't really make an effort to change that. And so I feel like ASUCI and EVP can, through practice, right, by showing them what a good student government can look like, I hope that we can show students we can inspire students to want better from their actual government as well. Thank you.
Jared, same question. How would you ensure these opportunities are accessible and inclusive of students from all backgrounds, especially those with no prior advocacy experience?
Yeah, of course. For me, it's a lot about doing targeted outreach, and I feel like I've had a lot of experience with this, especially going into my third year under the Government Relations Office. Something that I've seen, or something that have actually worked, is doing a lot, especially because I'm part of LECHA, which is a Latino-based socio-political org, and I was getting the message out to a lot of Latino students and promoting these events. And I think having that targeted outreach would be very beneficial to a lot of our underrepresented students, whether it comes to student parents or students or students of color. So just having that streamlined communication. And I definitely want to have that streamlined communication, especially when it comes to emails or setting up group chats with a lot of our RCO leaders and doing that group chat. Doing that work on the ground, getting that running. Something that I did this year, of course, talked about doing outreach to Latino students, doing outreach to Black students, doing outreach to a lot of our already marginalized and vulnerable communities, and staying in that contact.
Thank you for your responses. For identity-based conferences such as the African Black Coalition Conference, Black Student Lobby Day, Latinx Student Lobby Day, and more, how would you collaborate with campus and statewide partners, particularly identity-based organizations, to ensure UCI's presence reflects shared community values, uplifts student leadership, and strengthens our outreach? Jared, you may answer this question first.
Yeah, of course, and I think this is something I saw with Latino Lobby Day in general. So what I did was I started off at the local level. When I actually helped coordinate Latino Lobby Day myself, and getting my groundwork running, I reached out to the Latinx Resource Center, and I think by having and just reaching out to like the people that you're actually electing, people you're actually advocating for, is really a resourceful thing. And of course, you don't really see that because ASUCI generally tends to have a gap between itself and the student body, but that's something that I did, and because of that, we had a lot more turnout than we did in our first lobby day. So that's how I would start at the local level. At the statewide level, I would look into different committees, such as the higher education committees at the state level. We've already worked with them, with the UC Student Association, and they've actually co-sponsored some of our legislation that we've done and that we've tried to lobby for at Teen and Lobby Day. So just maintaining those relationships and reaching out to a lot of nonprofits in the area and putting that ground.
Your time has elapsed. Adam, same question.
Yeah, I think as part of my vision of having students not just be advocated for and actually advocate for themselves, I'd like to get more involvement and to have our own campus student organizations like the Latino Student Union, like the Black Student Union, to be more leaders in directing and getting what they want out of lobbying for the students here on campus. Because I feel like more in the course of ASUCI, I feel like these organizations tend to represent their students better than the ASUCI as a whole does. And so I'd like to see ASUCI leadership more focused on issues that impact the whole university, such as financial aid, the parking, campus safety. And I'd like to see ASUCI more as a supporter and in empowering and uplifting local student organizations like the LSU, like the BSU, in their own lobbying for these lobby days. Thank you.
The next question is, executive officers of ASUCI have broad authority to propose new positions and redefine existing ones to best fulfill the needs of the undergraduate student body. What new positions, if any, would you propose? What positions, if any, would you redefine? Adam, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think as part of my focus on the financial aid crisis here at UCI, I'd like to create a new body as a kind of auditory board for the Office of Student Financial Aid in order to have students actually go in there and see what's going on there. So that way we can have greater transparency and students know what's actually happening to the money that is owed, not just promised, but owed to them by their government. And so I feel like creating a system such as this with support from higher level halls of power like the UC Regents and the state government can allow students to get a much better outcome when it comes to their financial aid. And that's why I think that creating this auditing board for the Office of Student Financial Aid here at UCI would be a really great idea. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Jared, same question.
Yeah, of course. So there would be two positions actually that I would like to introduce to the office or reintroduce formally. One of them being the local affairs coordinator. While this would be this would fall under the government relations committee, commission. And we did have this our first year, but it was removed recently as of this year. But because of that, we haven't been able to coordinate our efforts as much at the local level as much as we would want to, especially when it comes to a lot of our mobilization efforts. So I would reintroduce that. That way we can still continue to have our organized efforts when it comes to coordinating our visits to local city council meetings and when it comes to local city council issues. One of the other things that I would also like to introduce to our office would be a UC divestment coordinator. Our institution currently funds continues to engage in a lot of war profiteering, and because of that, I would like to introduce a coordinator to really address this issue and provide
Time has elapsed.
students.
I'd like to provide a rebuttal.
You may provide a 30-second rebuttal.
Yeah, in regard to the UCI divestment coordinator, I like to see if there's actual support from the student population for this, right? Who is this actually serving? Shouldn't ASUCI be focused not on supporting an individual political movement, but on the student body as a whole? I don't see how this kind of divestment, which is only going to reduce the funds available to the university, is going to help students as a whole. And I don't think it represents a representative student body for ASUCI.
For clarification?
You may offer a 15-second clarification.
Yeah, of course. So there are many forms in our investment portfolios that we can invest in, which is why the investment calls for actual investment and not just taking out the funds of these students. But our portfolio has a lot of contracts with gun manufacturers, which currently perpetuate current genocide.
elapsed. Would you like to offer a 30-second rebuttal? Or move on to the next question?
Move on to the next question.
Moving on to questions about subject areas traditionally under the external president's portfolio. External vice president's portfolio. The external vice president advocates for the affordability, accessibility, equity, and diversity of higher education at the local, UC-wide, statewide, and federal levels. Given that they do not directly address on-campus issues specific to UCI, how would you ensure that the voices and priorities of UCI students are effectively represented and heard in these broader advocacy spaces? Jared, you may answer first.
Yeah, of course. And I think I've gotten a lot of the groundwork on this, and I've tried to set the foundation, especially when it comes to connecting with a lot of socio-political orders on campus. So one of them being connecting a lot more with RCOs. I know the UCI as a whole and as a university does not typically reflect traditional UC campuses in the sense that a lot of students affiliate themselves with their orders instead of affiliating themselves particularly with that university. So I want to establish a streamlined communication. I want a streamlined set of communication between RCOs and us. I think that's something that I've started to do, especially with my position in mental and seeing that overlap and providing and expanding and spreading awareness on a lot of our initiatives and a lot of our market days and a lot of the things that we do. So overall, just actually reaching out to our students and being able to actively listen to them and setting news for them.
Adam, same question.
Yeah, could you repeat the question, please?
How would you ensure that the voices and priorities of UCI students are effectively represented and heard in these broader advocacy spaces?
Yeah, I think that a big part of this, like Jared said, is building relationships with the student body as a whole. I think that, like I've said before, I think that student organizations have the capability, if we empower them, to be better advocates for their specific groups than we can as a group that's representing the whole university. And so I'd like to see ASUCI build relationships with a lot of these local student organizations that support diversity, equity, and inclusion in order to empower them to build relationships with those in the higher levels of power in order to promote this in a way that benefits those groups of students. I think that by doing this, we can allow students to become representatives for themselves and to also help them achieve the goals that they want from their experience here at university.
A number of rising concerns in the field of higher education at the state and federal level would affect your term as external vice president. The following is a three-part question. What do you believe is the greatest concern in the field of higher education at the state and federal level, and how would you address it as external vice president? Adam, you may answer this question first.
Yeah, I believe that for the last 30-something years, the fastest growing issue has been cost. Students are being forced to take going into crippling student debt. They're relying on financial aid, and profits have just ballooned for our university system without the quality of education being improved. And so I feel as the EVP, the one issue that we can do, that we can fix to help the most students the most, is to help lower these costs. That's why I've spoken a lot at length on financial aid. I'd also like to speak a little more on parking. Due to the housing crisis, many students have been forced off campus, and so they have to buy cars and drive and buy parking permits. And if they can't afford a parking permit, they end up getting charged outrageous fees whenever they are quote-unquote caught. I think that this can be resolved through an amnesty program for students who commit first-time violations of parking, as well as reduce in parking costs overall. Thank you.
Jared, same question.
Can you repeat it one more time?
What do you believe is the greatest concern in the field of higher education at the state and federal level, and how would you address it as external vice president?
Yeah, of course. I think I've kind of said it earlier, but I think overall it's the disempowerment of students. A lot of student voices are being suppressed, especially right now with a lot of recent revocations for students expressing their own points of views. So I think that's something that I would want to bring up. And of course, disempowerment comes portfolio comes through legislation that actively targets our most marginalized communities, and because of that, I want to organize and work together. And I was saying kind of earlier, establishing this quarterly town halls to actually communicate with students, to actually talk to them about what their biggest issues are, and how us and the UC Student Association can go out to the Capitol and fund efforts to really support them, especially when it comes to higher education bills, expanding covenant access, expanding a bunch of access and student protections at the state and federal level. I would also like to mobilize at the regions level for different issues, of course, pertaining to regions-based issues. But that's all I have.
Thank you for your response. Your next question is, what is your position on rising concerns in the field of higher education surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how would you integrate it into your administration's advocacy? Jared, we'll begin with you.
Yeah, of course. So something that I want to do is start from the inside out, of course, doing a lot of outreach to a lot of students who may have not traditionally heard of it when it comes to ASUCI and getting involved in advocacy and getting involved in advocacy space. I don't know, you could start off with like student parents, for example, because our office has done outreach and has done collaborations with them. But starting off with different demographics that can really support them in the community because of
Of course, timekeeper, how much time is remaining?
32 seconds.
You have 32 seconds remaining for your response. The question is, what is your position on rising concerns in the field of higher education surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how would you integrate it into your administration's advocacy?
Of course, and I think outside of that, going out, I think overall, like our diversity initiatives are very much under attack. A lot of institutions have overall rolled back their diversity initiatives. I think that's something that's completely wrong. And it's something I want to lobby for at the state and at the federal level. And I know we talked about a lot of equitable initiatives that I've brought to the Capitol, not lobby for it personally myself. And I think overall, continue putting a lot of pressure and mobilizing a bunch of students, putting pressure on UCI admin at the regions level. And
Seems like that's announced. Adam, same question.
Yeah, diversity, I think, is one of UCI's greatest strengths. As someone from a mixed race background, it's definitely something that's comforted me a lot in my experience here at UCI. And I think that it's super important that as EVP, as ASUCI, we stand up and defend students who are being targeted by initiatives from the federal government. Luckily, California is our main source of funding, so we have some safeguards against that, but we still need to do way more to protect students, trans students, LGBT students, students of color, from these frankly racist attacks against our higher education. I don't think that this is really acceptable, and so I think that we need to take a stand at the state level to create a bulwark within California against these kinds of attacks from the federal government, which are likely going to continue for the next
Thank you for
3
your
to 4 years.
response.
Ken and Adam, I would remind you to please keep within your assigned
I
time
apologize.
limits. Thank you.
Your next question is, how would you engage students with the important issues of the day and the legislative solutions at the forefront of your administration's advocacy? Adam, you may answer this question first.
Yeah, I'd like to see more students getting involved in the local government level, because I feel like this is the one that impacts our life here at UCI actually the most. Things like housing regulations and zoning laws, I feel, have contributed are one of the biggest contributors to housing costs, which is one of the fastest rising elements of cost that students have to deal with here within the UC system. And so I'd like to create initiatives to get students more involved, not just in higher level politics like the midterms and general elections, but also within the local, county, and state level politics as well, in order to support bills and referendums that would help the students here as a whole. Because I think that a lot of students kind of just are not involved in this level of politics, and if they were, we could fix a lot of the issues that are occurring at a local and state level. Thank you.
Jared, same question. How would you engage students with the most important issues of the day and the legislative solutions at the forefront of your administration's advocacy?
yeah, of course. I think as the EVP, you have a lot of power in the sense that you can use a lot of outlets of communication. One of them, I would like to reintroduce campus-wide email updates. I haven't seen them since I believe my first year, and I think that would provide a lot of transparency, especially because we're reaching out to the entire campus. Two, I would also like to establish town halls, as I was saying, establishing quarterly town halls to link administration and students, and to kind of ease concerns, especially when it comes to financial aid, when it comes to parking, when it comes to a lot of these big UCI issues. Something that I'd also like to do well, I kind of do it already within my orgs and within my involvements, but being involved with and being in touch and setting meetings with a lot of our advocacy orgs, and I know a lot of them, after speaking and having long conversations with them, have expressed interest in mobilizing at the UC Regis level, and that's something I would try and reallocate funds for next year, funding these trips so students can actually voice
The time has
at the
elapsed.
Regis level.
Thank you for your response. How will you support the student body's right to advocate for themselves in the face of potential opposition or adversity from entities such as the UC Regents, the UC Office of the President, and local, state, or federal legislative bodies? Jared, you may answer this question first.
Yeah, of course, and I think that's why the EVP office will play a very pivotal and critical role next year, especially when it comes to setting up the groundwork for the midterms, and that's why I've kind of focused my efforts on reclaiming our civic power and reclaiming the ability to actually engage in these initiatives, and especially because a lot of our democratic ideals are under threat currently. So I would focus a lot on our voter engagement and our voter registration drives, which is something we've had a lot of success with in the past, especially because the 9 UCs compete with each other actually and try and get out the vote. And that's why I would also want to facilitate the ease of this process by establishing and working with the Orange County Board of Supervisors to establish a second on-campus voting center to allow students to really be involved. I'd also like to, of course, establish the Vote Coalition, and I'd also like to provide campus-wide email updates and invite students to a lot of our students.
Your time has elapsed. Adam, same question.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty obvious from what I've been saying this entire last hour or so that I feel like empowering students to advocate for themselves is absolutely something that we need to do, and I think it's a hugely important part of what the EVP needs to do, and something that kind of hasn't been done over the last few years within the EVP. And so I think that the best way to do this is to reach out to other orgs on campus and to collaborate with them in order to have them empower their students within those orgs. Because I think that when you just send out an email from like ASUCI, people just throw that in the bin, they don't look at it. But when they hear something at their general meetings, at their club meetings, at their board retreats, etc., that's something that they actually listen to. That's something they feel is important. And so I think that by outreaching to these organizations and having them outreach to their students, I think that we could see a lot more success in getting students involved and to advocate for themselves. Thank you.
And this is your final reminder to stay within the time limit as assigned. Please note that continued failure to not abide by our time limits will result in an applicable sanction from the Elections Commission. Your next question is, returning to the topic of UCSA. UCSA is composed of 5 standing campaigns: Acquire, Fund the UC, Students Enacting Environmental Defense, Racial Justice Now, and UC We Vote. How would you engage UCI students in these campaigns to ensure their success and collaborate with UCSA for meaningful change within the UC system as a whole? Adam, we'll begin with you.
Yeah, I think that this comes down to like ground level work, I feel. I think that for the UCSA's greatest strength is just their ability to reach a large number of people. And I think that we can collaborate with them to do this in order to reach larger groups of people. And I think that the best way to do that is to create a relationship between students and the UCSA. I think that most of your average students probably doesn't even know what they do. I think a lot of average students probably don't even know what ASUCI does. And I think that by getting them more involved with efforts by the UCSA, it will be very helpful to their and to our goals, which I may have dogged on them a little bit. I do think that we have a lot in common in terms of our goals, and in this situation is something where we can really collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Jared, same question.
Yeah, of course, and I think our office has done overall a pretty good good job at facilitating these campaigns, especially when it comes to communication with the UC Student Association and what their goals are and how we can further align ourselves with certain goals. I think by starters, I would definitely want to start outreach and collaborate with a lot of our resource centers. I feel like a lot of our resource centers are kind of overlooked in the sense that ASUCI does not do a lot of outreach to them in general. That's why I kind of wanted, that's why this year, for example, for the Latino Holiday Town Hall, did a collaboration with the Latinx Resource Center, and that definitely got a lot more students involved than previous years. I think something that we could also utilize, of course, is getting more people into the UC Student Association space. A lot of people are kind of like unaware, so I definitely want to establish that kind of footwork to really communicate with the student body. This comes through campus-wide emails. This comes through utilizing our Instagram and posting a variety of times. Just all of that.
Your time has elapsed. Your next question is, the 2025 to 2026 academic year will precede the 2026 midterm elections and a number of important statewide elections. The following is a two-part question. How would you increase, alongside campus partners, civic engagement and student voter participation during this critical time? Jared, you may answer this question first.
Yeah, of course. So I don't want to, of course, repeat myself too many times, but a lot of my campaign, a lot of my focus is on civic engagement. So I was kind of saying earlier, establishing those town halls, creating a second voting center on campus because a lot of our voting times and people wait hours at night just to vote. Establishing a vote coalition to provide funding for RCOs so we can engage in these off-campus voting campaigns, and kind of like getting the ball rolling with that. So that's why I kind of wanted to provide and kind of bring and incorporate these initiatives. I think it's especially important to kind of establish our relationship within those RCOs as well. So that's how I would get the groundwork running, of course, and having that communication. Especially because at the local level, the Irvine Safety Council will likely have an election in sometime in the year within a new day, and I'd like to mobilize students. I think it's important.
Adam, same question. How would you increase, alongside campus partners, civic engagement and student voter participation during this critical time?
Yeah, I think, like Derek said, we've been talking for pretty much this whole debate about increasing civic engagement. But I do think that there are additional ways that we can go and push this, especially in the lead up to the midterms. I think one of the things that I'd like to see is getting more students aware of and involved in mail-in voting. I think because so many students don't have their permanent address nearby, and are instead from out of state or from other parts of California, they tend to lean towards mail-in voting, and by providing better services for mail-in voting, such as within the mail rooms within our dorms, for example, I think having stuff set up there in order to make students aware of the fact that they can mail-in vote and having registration for mail-in voting set up there would be really helpful in increasing voter turnout. Thank you.
Given proposals like the SAVE Act, which would require documented proof of citizenship to register to vote, prevent the use of commonly held IDs like military, tribal, or driver's licenses, and create additional barriers for individuals who have changed their names, how would you ensure that all undergraduate students can access the ballot and stay informed? Adam, you may answer this question first.
Yeah, I think it's really important that all students who are eligible to vote do, and I think that the best way to do this is to get voter registrations into people's hands. I think that there's just a lot of students that I know in my personal life, especially those who aren't part of the poli-sci community, who aren't registered to vote, and they just don't really go out there and do it. And so, especially in terms of these, I think we need these issues. We need to advocate at a state level for increased support for students who say may have changed their name due to their gender identity, or to students who are of recently become citizens or naturalized citizens. I think that at the state level we can do a lot more to advocate for these students and to make sure that they are aware of the resources that they have to be able to vote. Thank you.
Jared, same question.
Yeah, of course. So I think these would fall, of course, under different jurisdictions depending on how you examine the issue. But one of them would be to lobby, of course, especially because voter state ID verification laws, because of course, like a lot of what's called a lot of disenfranchised communities like literally don't have the right or the access to vote. And I think by starting locally and organizing locally to allow people, or like just to allow people in general to work and to vote would be beneficial, such as reaching out to nonprofits or
Your time is elapsed. Thank you for your responses. The next question is, executive orders at the state and federal level often have significant impacts on students in higher education. How would you interpret and respond to executive orders, as well as students are informed, empowered, and protected through your advocacy? Jared, we'll begin with you.
Could you repeat the question one more time? Sorry, I didn't hear it.
Of course. Your question is, executive orders at the state and federal level often have significant impacts on students in higher education. How would you interpret and respond to executive orders, as well as ensure students are informed, empowered, and protected through your advocacy?
Yeah, of course. So this comes through a variety of initiatives. One thing I reached to a lot of boards and reaching out to state legislators in general. That's something that we can do with the UC Student Association space. Reaching out to legislators, co-sponsor bills that kind of counter these bills that are meant to disenfranchise a lot of students in higher education, especially because higher education right now is at an inflection point under a lot of threats when it comes to cuts of funding and stuff of that nature. So I would like to advocate for a lot more funding, and that's something that I've been doing at our different lobby days, advocating for or reallocating funds for basic needs, allocating funds for Cal Grant expansions to include a lot of more non-traditional students. So because of course a lot of like students' rights are like on the edge almost, really establishing those relationships with a lot of our offices and a lot of our district offices to enact that change, and that way we can lobby for that still.
For your response, Adam, same question.
Yeah, I think that the way that particularly federal executive orders have been used recently is definitely a major threat to students on campus, and I think, and the independence of our universities. And that's why I feel like one of the main things is that we need to make our UC system more independent from the federal government, because the reason why the federal government has this kind of influence over us is the amount of funding that they have, and they can threaten to cut it if we don't acquiesce to their demands. So that's why I think it's important to promote state level and corporate funding for the university and to expand our investment portfolio in order to gradually move out of our reliance on federal funding, because unfortunately, so long as our system is reliant on federal funding, the president can decide to just unilaterally remove that funding if we do something that he doesn't like. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. Your next question is, in 2023, UCI established a Police Accountability Board, PAB, modeled after one implemented at UC Davis. As a representative on the PAB, how will you ensure that trust and accountability is upheld between the student body and the UCI Police Department? Adam, we may start with you.
Yeah, I think that a strong relationship between UCI as an org, the students, and the UCPD is really important to establish and maintain. I think that having this board that functions as an oversight is very important, and I think that it should be expanded and empowered in order to deal with situations where people feel like the UCPD has overstepped its bounds. I think that while we're overall very grateful to the UCPD for its service in keeping our campus as one of the safest among the UC system and among colleges in America in general, it's very important that they understand that they are here to serve us, not us to serve them, and thus that they have certain boundaries that they can't cross and they can't violate. Thank you.
Jared, same question.
Yeah, of course. So for me, I would like to do a lot of outreach to our advocacy boards, especially because they have extensive knowledge. Kind of like that pipeline between students and police and, for example, like our prison systems. So doing a lot of outreach to our orgs, of course, and using them, like, not using, but like kind of getting guidance from them and developing recommendations for the police accountability board and providing those recommendations, of course, with UCIPD. That way, a lot of student safety and a lot of student rights aren't violated. Something that I also like establishing these quarterly town halls, but I cannot emphasize the importance of actually getting student feedback and getting student input when it comes to these important discussions. And that's all I have.
Thank you for your responses, candidates. We are now reaching the end of our scheduled program, so with that, we will have a 1-minute, 30-second closing statement from each candidate, starting with Jared.
Yeah, of course. I kind of reiterated earlier, but a lot of our higher education institutions are at an inflection point. A lot of students have expressed that their rights might be violated or that they will feel disempowered. And even though currently disempowered students do the right of ways, it's more than ever important to kind of safeguard and work at the state level, the local level, and at the federal level to safeguard these rights. And so, of course, that's something that I do with our involvement initiatives and actually getting student feedback. And just because of that, I think a lot of students have also requested a lot of new leadership initiatives from ASUCI. So I'd like to bring a lot of that groundwork into ASUCI because I have heard from other organizations and being in grassroots mobilizing kind of bring that forward to our office. But just to reiterate, I am really with Andrew. Also, you can check us out on Instagram. You can check us out on our Linktree website.
Thank you for your closing statement. We will now have a 1-minute, 30-second closing statement from Adam.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening, first of all. But I think that today we've seen kind of like two different visions for ASUCI's role as the student government. And we've seen, on one hand, a vision that's focused on empowerment and the disempowerment that the university does, and another one that's focused squarely on, I feel like, issues that affect not just individual groups of students, but on the entire student body as a whole. Issues that hit their pocketbooks, that hit their student loans, that hit their parking costs. And so I feel like I want you all in the audience and anybody listening at home to think about what issues affect you the most and what you feel is most important to you. And I'm also running as part of a slate called Anteater Rising. We're a movement that's in focusing on targeting these issues that we think are the ones that affect students the most and are the ones that have the largest effect on the most students. And if you feel like these issues of financial aid, of parking costs, of your student well-being are the issues that you feel are really important, are the ones that are hurting you, and the ones that you'd like to see fixed, please vote for us come week 3. Thank you.
Thank you for your closing statements, candidates. This concludes the ASUCI External Vice Presidential Debate. At this time, if our candidates would like to offer a brief 10-second farewell, we'll begin with Jared and we'll move on.
Of course, just thank you everyone for showing up and showing out. I appreciate everyone who came through, and I wish all the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for showing up. To anybody who's watching on there's a live stream, right? Yeah. And vote for Anteater Rising. Thank you.
With that, please give our candidates one final warm round of applause as they exit the stage. With that, the 2025 ASUCI External and Academic Affairs Vice Presidential Debates come to a close. This event is the third of 4 we are hosting this week. 2 back in tomorrow, same time, same place, to watch our presidential and internal vice presidential debates. As a reminder, voting will officially begin on the elections website, elections.uci.edu, next Monday, April 14th at 9 a.m. and Friday, April 18th at 5 p.m. All undergraduate students, regardless of year, major, immigration status, etc., are entitled to vote in these elections. If you have any questions or concerns regarding these elections, please feel free to reach out to our team at elections@asuci.uci.edu. On behalf of the Elections Commission, ASUCI, and your university, we hope you will engage with the student government and the future of our university by voting for candidates who reflect your values, your hopes, and your aspirations. Thank you for watching. See you on the elections trail. Have a good evening, everyone.